Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. So welcome to our Saturday morning session. As we know, the science in the world are very different to these days. But let us pray to the Supreme that this difficult time, passage without any major incident. And let's move forward. So now we will come to the last part of the second part of first Mundak. Today, we will go to the verses 11, 12, and 13. But before that, let us recapture a little bit the background of this Upanishad. As we saw, this Upanishad started with a very profound question from sage Saunaka to sage Angiras, and saying that what is that one thing, by knowing that thing, the whole world is known, whole universe is known. And then Rishi Angiras started answering. He says there are two varieties of knowledge, that is paravidya and apara vidya. And then he talked about apara vidya, that all the Vedas, all the things, they are part of apara vidya, while paravidya is knowledge of the Supreme. And then he gave example of the Supreme. He compared him with the body of the human being, from where the hair appear and disappear, and the spider web which is formed by the spider and again taken back. So, and then he described briefly that the Supreme is adrashya, he cannot be seen, he cannot be described, he cannot be grasped, agrahya. And so all those things we saw. And then the second part of first Mundak was explaining the sakam karma, the karma which are described in Vedas, which are to be performed, the particular reference to the Vedic karma kand, particularly Havan and Yajna, according to the Vedic tradition. But this also encompasses all the actions of humans which are done to fulfill the desires, sakam karma. So we were in that phase where we were discussing the sakam karma, how they should be performed, and they can lead you to attain what you want to achieve in life. They can give you prowess, they can give you wealth, they can give you health, and they can give you prestige in the society, things like that. But then the Upanishad came and told us that this is unstable, boat. It cannot help you in crossing the ocean of this universe. And why it is unstable, that is what they were explaining. And now we come to the verse number 11. Now, the verse number 11 tells us that this unstable boat is not good enough, and therefore we have to go to a proper framework, which is paravidya. And briefly, the Rishi Angiras talks about that in two verses, very briefly. He says that तप श्रद्धेय ऋषु वस्त्रण्य शांता विद्वांसो भक्ष्यचर्याम चरंत सूर्य द्वारेण विरजा प्रयांति यत्रा मतस्य पुरुषो हव्ययात्मा. Basically, he says that the people should go to Aranya. Aranya doesn't mean that you go to the jungle. It means that you should go to a place which keeps you quiet, which helps you in keeping your mind quiet and under control, where your mind does not, vacillate again and again. And you can be happy with your own self, Shanta, that you are happy with your own self. Your happiness does not depend on someone else. In this world, normally on daily basis, our happiness is impacted by somebody else. What is happening to your wife, what is happening to your child, what your child is saying about you, what your brother talks about you, what your society talks about you, what your friends talk about you, how they conduct themselves against or for you, all that impacts us. If somebody praises you, you feel happy. If somebody criticizes you, you feel unhappy. So your and my happiness is dependent on outside world. Now that is the problem. We should not be dependent on our happiness, for our happiness, on outside world. That happiness should be within our own control. And that is what it means, that you go to a place in which your mind doesn't vacillate and your happiness remains, with you. You are the controller. And that is what is called swadhinta. Paradhinta means that you, are vacillating based upon what others say to you. That is paradhinta. So this is what Rishi Angira is telling here. And he says that the people तथा भिक्षा के लिए विचरने वाले संयम रूप तथा श्रद्धा का सेवन करते हैं. Now basically means here is that the people are not driven by their desires, they are driven by their needs. That whatever is required to maintain this body, they acquire that either by their own work or by, bhiksha, but they are not driven by their infinite desires. So here there are 3-4 things which are very important. One is that you go to a place which is quiet, which helps you in regulating your sense organs and your mind does not vacillate. Secondly, the outside world is not impacting on you, and you are under your own control. That is Shanta. You are, quiet on your own and you are happy with your own self. You are not looking for happiness elsewhere. And third is that you are only fulfilling your needs. You are not going after your desires. Desires are infinite and they keep multiplying. One desire is fulfilled, it gives rise to many more. And therefore, the Rishi Angira is saying that the person should be, only looking after his needs, not his desires. And then he says Virja, Rajogun, that is without the Rajogun. What is Rajogun? Now, Rajogun is very important. It was also told by Lord Krishna in Bhagavad Gita that it is important to pacify the Rajogun. Pacify means shant karna. It doesn't mean that you satisfy it. Shant karna. Rajogun is the one which is the tendency to do this, do that, keep undertaking large number of activities. To attain this, we should do this. To attain this, we should do this. To face this problem, we should do this. Now, these thoughts keep coming in our mind all the time. So that is the sign of Rajogun. And Virja means the Rajogun is, becoming quiet. It is not agitating your mind again and again for further action. So that is very important, Virja. And then it talks about Upavasanti. Tap Shraddhe Upvasanti. Tap and Shraddha. That is, you are dedicated to the Supreme, you surrender to the Supreme, and you pray to the Supreme. Your prayer is to the Supreme with total surrender, total dedication. And then Surya Dwaren Prayanti. Now, Surya Dwaren Prayanti. Now, this has also been referred in chapter 8 of Bhagavad Gita, that there are two types of routes. These routes have been described as Surya Marg and Chandra Marg. This is also called Krishna Marg and Sukla Marg. This is also called Devyan and Pitryan. These are the synonym words. Devyan is Surya Marg. Devyan is also Sukla Marg. Then Chandra Marg, Pitryan, and Krishna Marg, they are one route. Now, what are these routes? A person who is liberated, who had attained moksha, who is swadhin, whose happiness does not depend on others, on outside world, but he is content with oneself. Oneself is with his own self. Now that person goes through the Surya Dwaren. Surya Dwaren is the path of light, is the path where you are always getting enlightenment, wisdom, and reach the correct destination. That is called Parampad, the place where the Supreme is there. And you go and merge with the Supreme. While the other path, which is Chandrayan or Pitrayan or Krishnayan, now that path is the path which takes you to, a place where uh, you are given the outcome of your results, good or bad, whatever it is. You go to Swarg or Narak. Technically you can say that. But basically you get the return of your actions, and then you come back to the earth. Again, you are reborn. So that is the path of rebirth, where you are again in the cycle of death and birth. So this is what he has mentioned in this, what you call short verse, that the person ultimately should not remain on the unstable boat of karma mark, sakam karma, because that sakam karma will not lead him to the ultimate. He will have to come back to this universe again and again. But if you are following the aranya route, that is the route which gives you, quietens your mind, which makes you contented completely, which develops total trust and faith and surrender to the Supreme. And then your Rajogun becomes, indolent, it is completely passive. And then you can attain your moksha through Swargdwar. You can go through the route of light, route of wisdom, route of, enlightenment. And then सूर्य के मार्ग से वहां चले जाते हैं जहां पर वह अमृत जन्म मृत्यु से रहित नित्य अविनाशी परम पुरुष रहता है. नित्य अविनाशी परम पुरुष रहता है, वो जगह कहलाती है परम पद. Now the param pad is the abode of the Supreme, where one reaches by following this route. Now I want to go back to Bhagavad Gita a little bit on chapter 9 and verses 20 and 21. To understand properly the path which was described up to verse number 7 in the second part of first Mundak. Now exactly the same thing is there in Bhagavad Gita. It is chapter 9, verse number 20 and 21, and I will read them in Hindi. तीनों वेदों में विधान किए हुए सकाम कर्मों को करने वाले, सोम रस को पीने वाले, पाप रहित पुरुष मुझको यज्ञों के द्वारा पूजकर स्वर्ग की प्राप्ति चाहते हैं। वे पुरुष अपने पुण्य कर्मों से फल रूप स्वर्ग लोक को प्राप्त होकर स्वर्ग में दिव्य देवताओं को भोगों को भोगते हैं। देन 21, वे विशाल स्वर्ग लोक को भोगकर पुण्य क्षीण होने पर मृत्यु लोक को प्राप्त होते हैं। इस प्रकार स्वर्ग के साधन रूप तीनों वेदों में कहे हुए सकाम कर्म का आश्रय लेने वाले और भोगों की कामना करने वाले पुरुष बार बार आवागमन को प्राप्त होते हैं, अर्थात पुण्य के प्रभाव से स्वर्ग में जाते हैं और पुण्य क्षीण होने पर मृत्यु लोक में वापस आते हैं। This is precisely what was said in the earlier part of this Upanishad up to verse number 7, that when you are doing the sakam karma, you will reach the harvest of the karma which you have done. If you have done good karma, you will go to Swarg, you will attain all those good results, you will be happy there. But once that impact of those karmas is over, you will have to come back to this world, and again you will have to be reborn, and you will be in the cycle of birth and death. And that is why this Upanishad described that route as unstable boat. And the stable boat he is now describing in this form. Now, in the verse number in chapter 8 of Bhagavad Gita, there is reference to those two paths. And let me read that also. Now, this is verse number 24 of chapter 8. जिस मार्ग में ज्योतिर्मय अग्नि अभिमानी देवता है, दिन का अभिमानी देवता है, शुक्ल पक्ष का अभिमानी देवता है और उत्तरायण के 6 महीनों का अभिमानी देवता है, उस मार्ग से मरकर गए हुए ब्रह्मवेता योगी जन उपर्युक्त देवता द्वारा कर्म से लाए जाकर ब्रह्म को प्राप्त होते हैं। नाउ दैट इज द सूर्य द्वारेण, दैट इज सूर्य root of the sun, that is the path which takes you to the supreme. And then there is another path which is called Chandrayan. That path is also described in verse 25 of chapter 8 of Bhagavad Gita. जिस मार्ग में धूम अभिमानी देवता है, रात्रि अभिमानी देवता है और कृष्ण पक्ष का अभिमानी देवता है और दक्षिणायन के 6 महीनों का अभिमानी देवता है, उस मार्ग में मरकर गया हुआ सकाम कर्म करने वाला योगी उपर्युक्त देवताओं द्वारा क्रम से ले गया हुआ चंद्रमा की ज्योति को प्राप्त होकर स्वर्ग में अपने शुभ कर्मों का फल भोगकर वापस मृत्यु लोक आता है। So this is what we can see. There is a great similarity between the Upanishads and Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita, in fact, in a concise manner, covers most of these, teachings which are there in Upanishads. So the purpose here was that the Sakam Karm route is good, but it takes you to the Swarg. It gives you temporary relief. You live in happiness for a while in a place of abundance. But once that impact is over, you have to come back to this world where you are reborn and you are passing through the same normal routine and going up to the death. Now, this was verse number 11. Now let's go to the verse number 12. परीक्ष्य लोकान कर्म चिंतान ब्राह्मणों, कर्म चिंतान, कर्म से प्रदान किए जाने वाले लोकों की परीक्षा करके ब्रह्मांड ब्राह्मण निर्वेदम वैराग्य को आयात प्राप्त हो जाए. Now this is a very profound statement. Sorry. Now why it is saying that? कर्म से प्राप्त किए जाने वाले लोकों की परीक्षा करके ब्राह्मण वैराग्य को प्राप्त हो जाए. That why it is, it is a very profound statement for ordinary people like us. It simply says that you follow the route of the karma and you pass through all those outcomes and examine those outcomes, and you will find that this path is not leading you to eternal happiness. This is a path of transient happiness, and therefore you should pass through this path, examine this, get fed up with this path, and then go to the other path, the path of paravidya. So this path is an essential precondition for people like us. They have to pass through this route to feel the pleasure of life, to feel the happiness of power, to feel the happiness of money, to feel the happiness of prestige, and then feel frustrated that this happiness is not eternal, it is transient. As soon as the money leaves you, nobody cares for you. As soon as the power leaves you, nobody bothers to call you or ask for you. As soon as power and money leaves you, your prestige is again down and ruined completely. So this is why this path was described as unstable, but also this path is essential, that you have to pass this examination. Once you pass this examination, then you realize yourself that this is not the correct path, and then you will go to the other path where you are dedicated completely to the Supreme. So this is very important. We should read it again. परीक्ष्य लोकानाम कर्म चिंतान ब्राह्मणों, कर्म से प्राप्त किए जाने वाले लोकान परीक्षा, लोकों की परीक्षा करके ब्राह्मण वैराग्य को प्राप्त हो जाए. इनके बाद ही आप वैराग्य को प्राप्त हो सकते हैं. Once you pass through this route, you become experience that this route is not good enough, this is unstable, this will bring me back to this cycle of birth and death, and then you will reach the state of vairagya, state of complete dedication to the Supreme. Now next, that's again very important here. कृत्येन किए जाने वाले कर्मों से स्वतः सिद्ध नित्य परमेश्वर नहीं मिल सकता. When you are doing sakam karma, then you cannot attain the Supreme. It is not possible. Sakam karma will give you the outcome. Like you want to build up a factory, the factory will be done, you will produce, you will get wealth, everything will be fine. You are contesting election, you will win the election, you will become minister, maybe chief minister, maybe prime minister. You will reach that state. You are doing social service and you want to gain prestige in the society. You will get that status, you will get that prestige, but this will not lead you to the Supreme. This will give you transient positive outcome, which is getting all comforts in the Swarg, and then you come back to this world to face this cycle once again. So, कृत्येन किए जाने वाले कर्मों से स्वतः सिद्ध नित्य परमेश्वर नहीं मिल सकता. That is not possible. उस पर ब्रह्म का ज्ञान प्राप्त करने के लिए हाथ में समीधा लेकर वेद को भली भांति जानने वाले पर ब्रह्म परमात्मा में स्थित गुरु के पास ही विनय पूर्वक जाएं. Now here there is a glory of the Guru which has been established, that once you have examined this world and passed through the transient pleasure and pain, then you are fully convinced that this is not the right path. Then you find a guru for yourself, go to that guru and acquire the correct knowledge so that you can transcend this universe of Maya and you can attain the Supreme. So this is what here, this is a reference to the glory of the Guru, how the Guru could be useful. Guru doesn't mean that a person in physical form. Guru can be in the form of, your what you call mental thought process. You meditate on issues, you read, you see certain actions yourself, and then you meditate and you find a route for yourself that this is what the correct path is. The correct path is led, is shown by the Guru, and that Guru need not be a physical person. It could be, the internal meditation of your own self. It could be reading of certain scriptures. It could be observing certain other people and then finding your own path, which will lead you to the Supreme. So this is what these two verses are telling us. Very, very fascinating verses. Now, the last verse of this part 2 of first Mundak. तस्मै से विद्वानु प्रश्नाय सम्यक, वह विद्वान वह ज्ञानी महात्मा शरण में आए हुए पूर्णतया शांत चित्त वाले, शम दम आदि साधन से युक्त शिष्य को उस ब्रह्म का तत्व विवेचन पूर्वक भली भांति उपदेश देते हैं, जिससे वह शिष्य अविनाशी नित्य परम पुरुष को जान ले. नाउ स विद्वान उपसन्नाय, देन समावेदांताय तस्मै ब्रह्म विद्याम तत्वतः प्रोवाच अक्षरम satyam purusam ved. Now, here the last, mantra of the second part of first Mundak tells you that you should surrender yourself to a guru. You should surrender yourself to a wise person, to the knowledge, to the source of knowledge. And once you do that, then that teacher or whatever that source of knowledge will ultimately take care of you. It will guide you to the correct path, but you have to be completely dedicated to the Guru. So the importance of Guru has been described in very precise terms in these two mantras. The mantras 12 and 13. As I mentioned, Guru here does not mean a person in physical form. It could mean even a person who is no longer in physical form, but his knowledge is available to you. You can read that knowledge, you can meditate upon that knowledge. You can find a person who is alive and with whom you can talk and discuss and understand things. That is also possible. You can observe certain wise people and meditate upon their conduct, their behavior, and then come to a conclusion how you can reach the Supreme. But ultimate test here is that the Sakam Karm route is unstable. It will only take you to the Swarg. It will give you certain, transient pleasures. It will give you comfort for a while. But once that impact of those good karmas is over, then you will have to come back to this universe. But if you want perpetual moksha, if you want eternal peace, if you want what we call anand, then you have to adopt a different route, which was described in mantra number 11 and then reinforced in mantra 12 and 13. So this is where we will conclude the part 2 of the first Mundak of this Upanishad. And before we conclude, I would like to pray in the context of the current, crisis in the world. I would simply say that Sarve bhavantu sukhina, Sarve santu niramay, Sarve bhadrani paschyantu, Ma kaschid dukh bhag bhavet. Paramatmane namah.